How we doing, Prepper Nation? John here. So let's talk about bugging out. This is not going to be your typical YouTube video. On most YouTube videos, when you hear the phrase bugging out, you're going to get a layout of the bug out bag and everything that's inside of the bug out bag. I've done one of those videos and I'll link it below in case you're interested. However, since then I have added a foldable shovel, just so you guys know, and a portable camping stove. But anyway, I'll link it below. This is going to be a video about the mindset that goes into bugging out and when it's time to make that decision, okay? Because that's not covered all that much on prepping channels, and so I wanted to touch on that here for especially the newer preppers. Okay, so let me go down the list of things that you need to be thinking about first of all when you're building a bug out bag. Okay, food, water, clothing, shelter, fire, medicine, and means of self-defense. All right, so everything that you have should fall into one of those categories. If you've ever built a bug out bag, you know what I'm talking about when I say this. You want to pack only the things that you're going to use, and most of the things that you take, you want them to be multi-purpose. So in other words, you don't want to take something that takes up room in a bug out bag and only serves one purpose. You want to be able to use it for multiple things because you can only fit so much in a bug out bag, right? So the mentality, and funny story here, folks, really short story. I have a friend who is a prepper, and he's huge into the idea of a zombie apocalypse. He truly believes that there's going to be a zombie apocalypse. And so his name's Marcus. He does two things. Number one, he stockpiles seeds. He has a seed vault, which is playing out pretty well right now with the food shortage. But the other thing is he preps for the zombie apocalypse. And, I used to laugh at this, and then he explained it to me one day. He said, look, he said, if you're prepped for a zombie apocalypse, you're prepped for any shift event out there. SHTF, any of them, from tornado to hurricane to nuclear fallout, whatever. You're prepped for it. And so that kind of made sense to me. So what I'm gonna ask you folks to do, here's the mentality, okay? If you have the choice between sheltering in or bugging out, you know what I'm saying? You always want to shelter in. Some people say, at the first sign of trouble, I'm out of here. It's not camping, folks. I've been out in the woods. I've tried doing this extensively for, upwards to a week and over. Trying to survive off grid with a basic bug out bag is not the same thing as going to your local KOA campground and camping for a week. It's just not. Anybody that has done this can tell you that it's a lot different, and we'll get into that. But again, bunkering or sheltering in place versus bugging out, you always default to sheltering in place, bunkering in, because all of your supplies are there, all of your comforts are there. If you have kids, it's going to be a lot easier for them to shelter or bunker in surroundings that they're used to. You already have, it's literally in the name. If you're bugging out, the fourth thing on my list is shelter, right? But if you're sheltering in, you literally already have the shelter. So that takes care of one or two things because you're not really having to worry about maybe fire at that point. All of the food that you have stockpiled is at your home. Your water is at your home. And so if you bug out, you can only take what fits in a bag. Now, when a lot of people build a bug out bag, they will go out and get the most expensive stuff that they can possibly find. There are certain YouTubers, and we will just say that are north of the American border, that will they review the most expensive items, and they sell very expensive items on their website, and it's pitched to you like a commercial. And I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to recommend 2 items that you do not want to skimp on. You do not want to cheap out on these 2 items, and that is a bug out bag and a tent. These are 2 things that if you cheap out on these, okay, and again, I've done this for extended periods of time. If you get a cheap bag or you get a cheap tent, you will regret it. A lot of preppers will get a cheap tent and then they will throw in duct tape. If you go and YouTube it, you know what I'm saying? What's in my bug out bag? You'll notice a lot of them bring duct tape, and the reason for that is, in many cases, the tents begin to leak. You don't want that. You do not want to run into that. If you're in a shift situation where you're trying to live off the grid and avoid, for example, some sort of conflict. Let's say, Iran has invaded your area of the United States, and you are out in the deep woods, and okay, I'm going to be out here for months at a time. You don't want to be out there in a $40 Walmart tent. I mean, you just don't. Long term like that. So the bug out bag, for those of you who have asked, it's a DEFCON 5, which is an Italian military bag. Is right back here behind me. And again, I left the link down below. And then I left a link for a tent. The tent that I use, number one, blends very well with with trees and things like that, foliage. If you're in a desert climate, you may not want to get the same color that I've recommended. You can get this tent in different colors, but the one I've recommended goes well with trees and a camouflage as well. It's extremely waterproof. All of the zippers are fantastic. It's easy setup. It's 3 to 4 people. I mean, it's just a good tent. So these 2 items you want to focus on. The rest, to be quite frank, you can get at your local Walmart, and you can get everything else you need on the cheap at your local Walmart. Food. Let's get to food here. So if it gets to a situation where you need to bug out, the situation's going to look something like this. You know something's going down. You're at home with your family, bunkered in, of course, and you hear gunshots in close proximity. Not just one gunshot, you hear many, you know what I'm saying, rifling off. Or you see first responders show up and there's social chaos. And when you walk out your front door, you can actually see the lights, like they are close by. That is the moment when you have a very serious decision to make, and it's going to be a different decision for everybody. If you are not physically able to bug out, this is the point in time when you really need to shelter in. You need to secure every exit and entryway into your house or your apartment. You need to work at this point on a safe room, and we covered all this in a previous video about bunkering in. But when it gets to this point, and if you make the decision to bug out, you're going to have to grab your bag, and you have, I would normally say, 10 minutes or less to grab what you can grab and go. So number one, have a plan in place. Have a predetermined spot, a bug out location as we call it, but it can be, a bug out location means a lot of different things, right? So my bug out location is deep woods, 50 or so miles from here, and I'm already deep woods. I mean, we are talking out here where I'm probably going to, spot Bigfoot. Um, but for you, it may be driving 20 minutes down the road to a sibling's house, or it may be driving 3 towns over and staying in a hotel for a few days. Um, so it looks wildly different. The most important part is that you do have a plan. Okay. So you want to have a predetermined place in mind. You want everybody in your family to know where this place is at. Because if, let's say, for example, you and the wife get separated, or you and the husband get separated, and cell phone towers are not working, the grid's down, you know where to go. And you know that your better half is going to be there. So you've got that going for you. Each person in the family should have their bug out bag, their own personal bug out bag. So it's my wife and I, and we have 2 kids. So we actually have 5 bags. We each have our own bug out bag, right? And then the 5th one is a medical bag. It has nothing but medical supplies in it. And this is going to be the simple stuff like Band-Aids and aspirin, quick clot, and it's going to be just stuff that over-the-counter medicines, wound dressings, things like this. You can buy these pre-made if you're not sure what to put in them. You will see a lot of the high-end medical kits online and on YouTube. Bear Independent sells crazy good medical kits, but they may be out of your budget. If they're out of your budget, expect to spend $40 to $50 on a bare bones medical kit over the counter at a pharmacy or something like that. Something like a Walgreens, they sell them. So that's going to take care of your medical, but we have 5 bags here total. So we're going to grab our bags, we're going to put them in the car first thing. And then with the space that we have left, we're loading food. And I've told you guys before, we have shelves and we have the canned food separated and things like that. Some of the canned food's going, but most of the rice, most of the beans, and a lot of the freeze-dried food is going with us. And then when we get to our bug out location, there's more there waiting. But we're not going to be able to take everything we have here. So you need to have a predetermined location. Everyone needs to have bug out bags. And then I would highly suggest a 5th for medical. And then you need to have a plan at home to where you can get everything together plus anything else that you may need within 10 minutes time. Because normally in a shift situation, 10 minutes is a long time. Okay. That could mean that those gunshots are getting very close. And you'll have time to get out in most cases, but you're not going to have much longer than 10 minutes. So it's a decision that's completely up to you. Be sure that you have each bug out bag at the bare minimum should have a Sawyer or a life straw or a filtering bottle, something like that. Bare minimum on each bag. You want to have some kind of water system to where if you can't make it to your bug out location, let's say the road's blocked, okay, folks, you want to be able to get to the point where you can grab your bags, you can grab 1 or 2 pails of the dry food and go. And you can find a source of water later, natural body of water or something, and then you can safely drink it. You can safely use it for the freeze-dried food, etc. So clothing, again, climate. Here where I'm at, we basically have all of the seasons. So at the very least, I want to take an emergency blanket in each bag, a poncho in each bag. If I'm not wearing a coat during this 10 minutes, we're going to throw coats in the vehicle because we have no idea how long we're going to be out there, right? So you just want to make sure you're dressed for it. If your bug out location is in the middle of the woods and your kids are wearing flip-flops, this should be a no-brainer. But with gunshots going off down the street, there's a bit of a panic in the air. So just breathe deep during this time and make sure that your kids have what they need. Make sure you have what you need. Put some boots or some really good shoes on and go. Shelter, we've been over that with the tent. If you're on an extreme budget, okay, I'm going to drop the extreme cheap version of a shelter. Very easy to set up. Grand total is going to run you $20. And that is going to be a decent hammock that you tie between two trees. That's going to get you off the ground. And then you are going to use a tarp. And you're going to A-frame it over the hammock a couple of feet, and you're going to stake it down. And you just run paracord, again, a few feet up from the hammock. You run it between the same two trees. And again, you A-frame the tarp to where the paracord's running beneath. Very easy to do, and again, it's 20 or so bucks. The only positive about that, other than the price, is, let's say there are two of you, okay? You're not going to want to sleep at the same time anyway. You want somebody up watching the bug out location so you can sleep in shifts. This is done sometimes on submarines and works. So that can be done. But again, strongly recommend a tent, especially if you're going to be out there for more than a couple of nights. Fire. I'm going to be reviewing this later this week. But I've got a portable fire ring. I don't know how good that particular brand is. We're going to find out. But highly suggest some sort of a fire ring. It doesn't have to be a huge one. It can be a very small one. They're also called twig stoves. You can pick those up sometimes at Target, Walmart, and of course Amazon. The link is down below to shop on Amazon. And this is going to stop the fire from spreading and you won't be pulling in Antifa and catching the woods on fire. And at the same time, it does a lot to conceal where the fire is, right? So this particular setup here, you can pull it out. You can spray paint it with some high temperature camouflage paint, okay? And then when you're running your fire out in the woods, let's say you have people out here driving by or something. Even if you're close by and you're using one of these, the biggest plus with these is they're not going to see the direct location of the fire that you're building. They're just going to see an orange glow. They're going to know, okay, somebody's out in the woods, but where? You know what I'm saying? And obviously you can cook on it. You can boil water on a fire. I don't really need to tell most folks out there why fire is important when you're trying to survive off the grid, right? We went over medicine's means of self-defense. Strongly encourage you to have some sort of a gun. If you're going to bug out, I would suggest a long rifle as opposed to a pistol. A pistol will work to defend yourself, but if you get in a situation where the food runs out, a long rifle will hunt small game if you're proficient with it. And so, having a decent long rifle, even a 22 with a scope on it, if you've practiced with it, you can hunt small game, you can survive. But I mean, self-defense, if you're not a gun person, it can be, something as small as, you can go into a Goodwill or something and get an aluminum bat. I would suggest spray painting it, especially if you're going into the woods, because you don't want the shine of the aluminum. But I mean, you can use that. You can use a taser. You need to understand, though, I know there's some non-gun people out there. In a full-blown shift situation, you don't want to run up on people that have guns and have an aluminum baseball bat, okay? I mean, you just don't. So consider it. And if you're just 100% against picking up a firearm. Make sure that your bug out location is far away from the grid, from civilization. Get far enough away that you're not going to run into anybody. That would be my only advice there. One other thing that I will mention with the whole bugging out is during a bug out situation, okay, if you're in a rainy climate, you can pretty much bug out anywhere because you can catch rain and boil it and you're good, or filter it. If you're not in a rainy climate, if you're somewhere else where it's not raining a lot, understand that people who are bugging out are going to stick near natural bodies of water, rivers, streams, lakes. So you don't want to plan your bug out location right next to a body of water, because chances of you running into somebody accidentally is going way up. You want to stay close enough to a body of water that you can travel maybe early in the morning, hike 20-25 minutes and get there to collect what you need and get back. But you don't want to be right on top of the water. You're too easy to find there, okay? So just keep that in mind. Now, again, this doesn't really matter if you're going 2 towns over to a hotel or something like that, or to a family member's house. I'm talking about if you're going out into the woods or you're going out into, the plains or whatever. Just be very cautious with that. But again, with that in mind, I will post the link to my own personal bug out bag where I went through it. It's a few months old. I'm actually thinking about picking up a bigger version of the DEFCON 5. I have the standard version. I'm thinking about picking up the one that you can use with the rack, or the frame, I guess a lot of people call it. We call it a rack here. Be selective. If you're short, you probably want the smaller bag, excuse me, because of the way it sits on your back. It's all about weight displacement. Tall like I am, I'm 6'4", I can get away with using a frame and a larger bag, and it's not going to hurt my back so much. The thing with the packs, not only if you get a cheap one, not only will they tear up, but they will kill your back when you're hiking. And so just invest a little extra money. You'll be glad you did. And I guess a parting shot on this video would be, I would encourage anyone out there to go ahead and practice bugging out. You know what I'm saying? If you have a spouse and you have a weekend coming up, maybe with some kids, you have a free weekend coming up, go ahead and encourage them during that week to get their bug out bags in order just in case. And then come home Friday and say you've got 10 minutes to grab your bags, we're out of here. Just to see how they handle it, and go spend a weekend out in the woods or wherever you're going to be bugging out, and try it out. That's the best way to find out what works and what doesn't. A lot of times, fancy equipment that you can buy here on YouTube from other people doesn't really do anything, and it's not used all that much. But if you get out there and you decide you need something and you don't have it, again, come back home and order it and get a solid one at that point. But anyway, this is John here with Prepper Nation, and hopefully this video helps a few people out there. Veteran preppers, I know you're checking this out. Please maybe list some of the things that you can give for advice. Offer some advice, or maybe some things that you put in your bag that aren't the norm, that would help people out. But anyhow, this is John. Thank you, folks. God bless. If you have not done so already, please like and subscribe. Thank you.